Let's start with this election. Is this an election that matters? Is it going to make a big difference whether President Obama is re-elected or whether Mitt Romney is elected? Is this an election that's going to go down in history for its consequences?
Certainly on the foreign policy side, I understand that there are rhetorical differences between Romney and Obama. Romney speaks in terms of exceptionalism. Obama speaks in terms of multipolarity. If you look at the actual policy statements being made by the men themselves, whether it's on the Middle East or China or Russia or Europe, the reality is that the differences are virtually infinitesimal. We can talk about some of the small ones, but they're not big. On domestic policy, they're clearly larger. There's no question. But in the context of some of the of Hollande versus Sarkozy, absolutely not. And especially in the context of a United States legislature which is immensely impacted by private sector interests. It used to be 1974, 3% of congressmen that retired went into private sector lobbies. Today, I think it's 51% for Senate, it's 44% for the House. That's the same for Democrats and Republicans, and you got to practice to get that, right? You got to do it while you're actually in office. You're going to have a Senate that's going to be very close. You're going to have a House that's probably still a little bit Republican. I know that Romney and Obama are very different policymakers. I understand that Joe has a preference. But if you ask me as a global political scientist, do I see radical differences, especially from the perspective of the vast majority of people in the world, the answer is absolutely not.
Some points to come back to with Joe.
Yeah, well, I think it does make a very big difference. And I mean, particularly in economics, it's obvious that it's going to make a very big difference. And obviously, the extent to which it makes a difference depends on what happens to Congress. If Congress were Democratic and Romney got elected, then of course there would be a check. But if you imagine a situation, a nightmare, where you had Romney elected and a Republican controlling both houses of Congress, you could see the country going off in some radical extremist directions. I mean, just to think about one, the book that I've just published is about the price of inequality. The fact that America has the highest level of inequality of any of the advanced industrial countries and the least equality of opportunity, but we could be worse. So we could have even more inequality, even less equality of opportunity, a less progressive tax system where the upper 1% pays even less money, and a more distorted economy. So I think things could get much worse and would get much worse in the kind of scenario that I just described. So I do think that the outcome of these elections can have some very dramatic consequences, even in a world that's very constrained.